Hello and welcome to this um, lesson, which is meant to be a guide on how to complete the rest of your assignments. That's P6, um, M4. I'll cover P7 in a different video. But this is your assignment brief, and we're just going to go through all the assignments. This is the remaining part of the assignments. So you've got D2 here, you've got M4, P7, and P6, but for this particular video we'll cover P6 and M4 because their objectives are similar, so we can cover that in one go. So if you can recall from our previous assignment, which is your P4 and your P5, where you designed a BTech calculator, that's a database driven one. Now you're going to basically upgrade it by including a user registration for anyone trying to access that calculator. And M4 tells you to include, let's have a look at that. It says to include a login form which requires a password or an ID to enter the database. Basically, to be able to authorize users with your username and password. So this task now will be combining task 2 and 3 in this video. So let's jump straight into it. So what we want to do is we have created our BTech calculator. This is what it will look like, by the way. So let's have a look at what it will look like when you're done. This is supposed to be a login page, registration page before your BTech calculator can open. So remember, we've already covered this design, so I'm not going to touch on this. So this is what we're going to be including. We're going to be including your registration page and your login form. Let me run it, and this is what it should look like. Now, when you have multiple forms, we have never worked with multiple forms before, so this will be your first time in at least my class. We're going to be working with multiple forms. I'm going to show you how to design this from scratch, even though I know we've covered things like this already, but I'll just do it step by step. So if you're working with multiple forms, that's more than one form, and you want this one to run first, so this is what you want to test. Or if you want this one to run first, you can change the order from when you go to project, go to BTech. This is the reason why you're having BTech Access Prop. That's the name I gave my program, BTech Access. So under this page, this page here, that's BTech Access. That's what I named my file. That's why it's BTech Access. So all you just need to do is go to project, whatever it says here, but properties is a project properties. So you can change here. I have 3 forms. I have BTech calculator, login form, and registration. So I want registration to run first. So when I click on start, I'll just show you a quick example of what it will look like. We'll just give it a few seconds to initialize. Good. So you've got the registration page now on screen. So let me just use any random name and say Danny. Password will be 12345. Now see what happens when I try and create. Now it says please fill in all the info because I'm supposed to confirm password. If I put in anything here, any random thing, and it doesn't match with the password, this is what you have. It says password mismatch. So I have to put 12345 and create. And once you've created, you will see a confirmation that says user registered. Okay, once it registers, you notice the registration page goes and you have the login page automatically popping up. And our username was Danny and the password was 12345. I'll say login, and it says when it says login successful and you say okay, voila, your BTech calculator runs. So that's the idea of including the security function here. Okay, so we're going to do this from scratch. Let me close this and we'll come back to the user interface. But first, we're going to start with the database. This is what our database looks like. It's a very simple database, and this is what you have: just username and password. If I switch over to datasheet view, you will see I had been testing all of this. So I've been registering usernames and passwords, different users basically. You'll notice some blank pages here. This was when I didn't confirm, I didn't put in a validation to make sure that you put in something before it creates. So if you don't put in that validation, you just say create, it just create anything blank. So it means that if you try and log in with blank username and password, it will accept it. So I had to fix that. So that's why you have blank spaces here. So I'll just close this and redo this from scratch, and you just see how it is done. I know you know how to create tables. This is a very simple one. We just made sure that it accepted duplicates. So in case somebody, of course, because I was just running random tests, I just wanted it to accept any duplicate. So even if I put in admin twice, it should accept it, because it's at this stage it's really not that important. As you can see, you have two duplicates here, and it accepts it. You have admin twice. So I said accept duplicates. Don't worry about that. Um, you don't need to put any validation rule for this one. Okay, so let's jump straight to it. I'm just going to go ahead to my desktop and create. So I said new data, Microsoft Access database, and I'm just going to give it that name because I've already configured that. I'll just give it, you can give it any name, but you have to know where you saved your uh, file. Okay, so in the program, whatever name you give your program, your database, make sure that in your program you actually replace it with the one I have used in this example. Okay, so we're not going to be using, for some reason I tried to implement this using just uh, the current access format, but it wasn't working for some reason. So I had to save in 2003, 2003 format, and I'll show you that. So I've opened this. So first of all, let's save as. Click at save as. You choose this format, mdb.mdb. For some reason, after I designed it and I've tested, this was I took days trying to figure out why it's not accepting this database. But anyways, remember we had a database created already for your BTEC calculator. No problems, leave that. That one will still work with your BTEC calculator. As a matter of fact, it's better you have a different database for your users rather than combining it with the actual application. Of course, it can be combined with the actual application, but it's just best practice to have it separate so that if there's a problem with one database, it doesn't affect this other one. Okay, so I'm going to save this. I'm going to choose this and click save as, and you can see the format here is .mdb. Okay, db login is the name of my file. This one, because I've created one already, I just want to show you how I created it, so I'm just going to leave it as one. I don't want it to overwrite the previous one. Okay, so I'll say save. Enable content here. So we'll just create a table. So creating a table, and I'll just save my table and give it this name. That's TB. I'm just going to give it the same name. I don't want to waste too much time in this particular video. So TBL underscore accounts. That's table underscore accounts, and say okay. Then I can go ahead and create my, let's go to design view, sorry. Go to design view, then you have username and leave it on the default short text, which is 255 characters, and you have password. And if you've done this, you've completed your database. You just need to save it and you're done. But sorry, just one more thing. when you go to username, because like I told you, I didn't want to have to deal with duplication, so I just said allow it to accept duplicate for password and username. So I went to index and I said yes to this. Okay, so now I can save, and this is what we have. No entry whatsoever. So this is complete. I can close my database now. Sorry, this is for P7, the other database you just saw. So we're just going to move over to Visual Studio here. Now I'm going to show you how I basically created these, and the code. I've already coded everything. I'll just explain to you what each line of code is supposed to do, so that this can be a lot faster. I've typed this, and I'll make this code available to you as well, so just in case you make mistakes. But remember, there are certain things that you need to change. Remember here, this is my database. Well, okay, let me don't jump the gun. Let's go back to the interface. So let's start with the login page. So if you want to add, now when you open your BTech calculator app, the one you've done already, for you to add another form to it, you can just simply go to a Solution Explorer window here on the right. Right click, mine is called BTech Access, right? So I just right clicked on it and I went to add, and I said new item, and under new item it gives you this option, and what you want to take is Windows Forms and Forms window. You can name your form window. For this one, I'll just say example login, because I've already created the page, my form already for login. Say example login, say add. Now what do you have on your login page here? You just have your text boxes, labels, and a picture here. So let's start with the picture. So where's my example login? Here you are. So go to your toolbox and you get your tools out. So let's start with the picture box. Now with your picture box, you want to get a good icon, right? So you can go over to this website here, Icons 8. I'm sure you can remember we've used this several times. So I used, because it's a login page and normally it's padlocks that we're used to seeing for security for login pages. You can use different images, to be honest. This is just the one I chose to use. So I chose this and I said download, and I think I chose 256. Well, you can choose, even when you choose a bigger one, you can resize it, but I'll work with 256 in this example, and I'll say download for free, and wherever it downloads it to, I advise you copy it to somewhere you can remember, or you can just leave it there and rename it, whatever you want to do, as long as you remember where to get it from. You can always rename it, so it's easier to, let's just say padlock icon. You don't have to rename it. This is just something I'm doing just so I easily remember. Okay, so you come over here and you click on this black arrow, you choose image. I go to local source and I import, and I have it in my downloads folder, and this is it, padlock icon.png. There it is, and I say okay. You notice the way it appears here. Then I'm going to choose stretch image, and when it stretches image, you can decide to arrange it any way you want. If you hold the shift button and you resize, sorry, the control button, it should try and maintain. No, it's not maintaining. Anyways, you can just increase the size to an appropriate size that you're comfortable with. Okay, so that is that. So we're done with the first bit. Remember, it's the login form we're working with, so this is what it looks like, and we've just done the first bit. So the next thing is to put in your labels in no particular order. You can put your text box, whichever one. It doesn't matter which one you put in first. So let's have the label there. So the first thing I want to do with the text box is I'll just choose multi-line. As I click when you click on the box, that arrow up there, choose multi-line, just so I can resize it to my preference, to my own personal preference. I'll just make this form a little bigger. Okay, then I want two of them, so I'm just going to hold the control button down and click and drag. Then this label, I'm just going to type in, you move over to your properties window and type in login page. Then you can see I've typed login page, and I want that font and to change. I want to change that font, sorry. So I'll move over to the properties pane and click on fonts, and I'll make it bold. Let's work with 16 and see, and I'll change that font to minimal SF. That's just what I want to use. And I think it's kind of small, so I'll just increase that again. Let's do 24. Okay, not bad. So that's my login page. I will duplicate this so that I'll just resize it because I want to use the same font. So for this one, because this is going to be the username, so I'm just going to go over to my texts. Remember, I'm just changing, click on that, and I will just make that username lowercase. Okay, so I have username. I'll reduce that size. Now the reason why I want to finish with this before duplicating is because it's the same size. I want it to be the same size as the password label. So I'll just come over here. I'll not use it as bold. Let's work with 16 and see. Okay, that's fine. So I think it's still bold, or is that okay? I'll choose regular here. Okay, that's fine. So I'll just give a little bit of space. Yeah, let's work with that. So I'll hold down the control button, click and drag. Then while you click on that particular text, then come down to text and change that to password. Okay. So what next? On design, we're supposed to add new, login, and cancel, right? So 3 buttons. We need 3 buttons. So you can have different colors. You can have when it comes to creativity, I encourage you to be as creative as you like. Change color backgrounds, use pictures. As long as you know what you're doing, that's fine. So button, I need 3 buttons, but I'll first of all configure one. So I'll just make this a little bit bigger. Then I'll increase the size of I'll change the text first. This should be new. Still on that, I'll go to fonts. I always advise that when you're working with your tools, your properties, put it in alphabetical order so that it's easy for you to navigate. So remember, this is a font I'm using, and let me have it bold, and I'll use it as 14 and see what it looks like. Let it be regular. I'll just make it bold. Okay, I'm good with that. Then I'll just hold the control button down, click and drag, same thing here. So we've got 3 buttons, and you're supposed to have one will be closed. This one at the end here will be, so I'll change the text to close or cancel. You can have here, you see I have cancel, so it doesn't really matter, to be honest. This one is login. For consistency, I'll just use cancel. Okay, so if you've done all of this, you're done with the page. Now just a few things that you will need to do. Now you want the password box to have the special characters. Now let me show you. Now remember, like I told you, when you click on start, it will run what you put as the first form to run. So you have to go to project, go to the properties, then you choose which one you want to run. So you can see I want example login to run. So I'll just go to this one and just click on start. So just give it a few seconds to run. Okay, so this is your text box, obviously. So when you type in, you notice the text is showing, and it's the same thing here. I don't want that to be the case for the text box. What I want is I want the star symbol to appear when anybody puts in any character there. And you notice, of course, all the buttons are not working yet. So I'll do that now. But before I do that, I just want to improve the fonts in the text box. So when I go in, I'll just increase the size of the fonts. So I'll just make that maybe 12 should be fine. This one to go to font and say do the same thing. $12. Okay, so now if I run it, no, sorry, I've increased the size of the font. So what I'm going to do now is go to the password option. See password character. Any character you want to show when the user is typing, that's what you put here. So here I'll put the star sign. The star sign is on my keyboard, it's the number 8. When you the second function on your number 8 on your keyboard. So use shift and star key to enable that. So let's test it and see what it looks like. Okay, so when you type in anything, you can see it's showing you the star symbol. Okay, and you can see the size of my font has changed. Good, that's fine. So we're done with the login page. The next thing you want to do is I'm going to save this, and we're going to create the registration page, which is this. It's very similar to the login page. So what you're going to do now is we'll create another form using the same steps. Now we'll come over to your Explorer here. You can just right click, add new, and you choose Windows Forms. And for this example, because I've already done this already, this is just for demonstration purposes, I'll put example register. Okay, so Windows Forms is Forms window, and you click on add. So what I'm going to do is use the registration page. Okay, so we'll just to make it quick, we'll just copy what we have here already. So what you do is you click on this. You've already created a login page. Control A to select everything here, and Control C to copy. Then you move over to your registration page and you click on and just paste. Then you can adjust the size of your form as you see fit. Now, of course, we're going to change this to registration page. So just go over to the text property and say registration page. If you like, you can say user register, whatever. User registration page is up to you. So the first thing is, so for the username, password, and confirm password. So that means you just need to duplicate this. Go to control drag, take this down, select this, because it's the same properties anyway. So you don't need to do the password character because this is confirm password. I'll just go to the text bit and just type confirm. So confirm password. Save that. I'm going to change this image what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shift all of this a little bit to the right. Now, for the image here, you can put any image, to be honest. So what I did was using the same website. I just said maybe user login. I just searched for user login, and it's the same steps. Just search for the image you want to use and just insert. So I have it already on my computer, so I'll just search it out. So choose image, import, and I have that in my pictures, stocks, icons. I think I have it as, yeah, registration. So there you go. Say OK. So you notice, of course, it's a little bit blurry because the resolution is quite low and I've stretched it. Remember to, since we've duplicated it anyways, we've just copied and pasted. It's still going to be on stretch, the stretch option, so you can resize your image as you like. So this is going to be this is our registration page. Just adjust this, and you can see how quickly we've moved. So far we've been able to create our user registration page and also the login page. So I'm done with this, and what I'm going to do, because it's just to demonstrate, oh sorry, the buttons we just need to remove. We just need 2 buttons for the registration page. So I'm just going to remove this and say cancel is okay. Just create. Let's say create or register, whichever one. So let's say create. So that's create new user. So if you run it, this is what it will look like. Oh sorry, so remember, the reason why it's running is because I didn't tell it to run as the first one. So you go to project, properties, then you choose example register, then now you run it. Okay, so you can see it's running now. So anything you put in here, this is what you should see. So I'm just going to adjust my password text to the left a little bit so that there's space. So you can see at the moment nothing is working. So we'll move over to the codes. Let me close this. This one I'll move over a little bit to the left. Okay. So I'll close this and just go, because I told you I already created this already. This was just for demonstration purposes. So let's start with the registration page. You can see now you've completed your database, which is this. You can close that. Now let's go over to the code. Now on your, let's start with registration page first. Now if you double click on your form, it takes you automatically to your code view. Now let's start from the very top. Anytime you're working with a database and you want Visual Studio, Visual Basic or VB.NET to connect to that database, you need to call in a class. You need to import a class which is called OLEDB. OLEDB means Object Linking and Embedding Database. Okay, the acronym is OLEDB. DB stands for database, O for object, L for linking, E for embedding. It is an application programming interface designed by Microsoft, and it allows access to data from a variety of sources in a uniform manner. So because we're going to be accessing our database, which is access here, we will need to call in this because it has within it a library of commands that we need to use. For example, you've got here a class, you've got a class called OLEDB adapter. If you do not call this, let's delete this, right? Let's just delete this. The moment I delete it, can you see what has happened? It's highlighting that what the heck is this? That's what it's asking because it doesn't know where it's coming from. That's why you need to call this first. Okay, so import system.data.oledb. You have to do this for the registration form and also for the login form as well. If you look at the code here, you have to do that first. You have to import that first. Okay, if you don't import that, you can't use the commands, these classes that are contained within it. When you hear the word class, think of it as just the same way you have a car, for example. Within a car, you have chairs, you have the wheel, you have the gear, you have the handbrakes and different things within that car. If, for example, you're going to be designing a program that has to do with car racing, right? Instead of you to design a car from scratch, you can just call in the class for that car, and that car in itself has all of these things together. If, for example, you want to use something within that car on another item, you can easily just call in that car and class. That's, you call in that particular class because it has all these things, and you now begin to say, okay, I want to use the gear, I want to use the chair within the car, and so on and so forth. I know it's a rough uh, analogy, but I hope you get the idea. So basically, within this OLEDB, you have within it all of these other classes and commands that you can call on. Okay, so let's go on to the first thing. Now, you would notice that the first thing you have here, let me show you what you're going to see you might see in your own program. Let me open what I closed. That's the example program, the example that we created. That's this one. So this is what you most likely have. So you're going to be going to the very top. You're going to the very top. So what you do is you can click, just use your arrow buttons and just go up, or just come to the public class and press enter and put in your command here. So what I expect you to do is basically have this command at the very top here. Okay, so you place that there, and the next thing you do is to declare these variables. We'll take it one at a time. Anytime you see dim, you're declaring a variable. You're saying take this particular item here as this. So anytime you call on this, you use this, it is actually referring to whatever it is you've assigned it to. You've said this one should be a string. If this is a string, and of course you know what a string is, if you don't know what it is, you can just put your mouse over it and it tells you that it represents text, a sequence of UTF-16 codes. So this is equals to this. So anytime you see DB provider, if I click on DB provider here, you can see here DB provider, it means this. DB source means this. Okay, so let's look at what we've said. I said declare this as a connection. Now what is this OL? Remember we've called this OLEDB, and now we are saying see this word adapter as this particular class, and this connection represents a unique connection to a data source. Now when you're dealing with a client and server database system, it is equivalent to a network connection to the server. Now, because you're designing this on your local machine, you don't have a different location for your database. You're doing it on your client machine, on your own machine. So you're basically calling on this so that it links it to the database. Okay, so it represents that connection. That's why we're calling this out. Then for dataset is just as the name implies, it just consists of a collection of data tables data table objects that you can relate to each other, just like how you in here in your database. Let's just go to your database. You've got different tables here in your database that have relationships. Okay, so with this you can call in different data sets. Okay, so we've declared these, and we've said here the DB source, that's a database source. Where is it located? Where did I create my database? I put it on my desktop. That's where I saved it, here on my desktop. Very busy desktop, yeah, but it's on my desktop. That's why you have it as this destination. If you want to get this path on your computer, this is what you do. You simply go to where your database is saved. This is my database. So you just right click on it, say properties, go to security, then you can get the object name from here. You just click, drag, highlight it, copy and paste, copy it and paste in your database. So what did I do? I'll just do that one more time. I just right clicked on the file. I said properties, security, and I copied the path. So that was what I included here. I just pasted it here, data source. Now let's move on to the next thing. Now, if once you've called in this, you have to put in a connection string. Now this is what the connection string will do. If you don't put, let's delete this and let's run this, let you see. Let me run it, let you see. First of all, let me change this to my form so that it will, my login form is what I want to run first. That's why I'm doing this. So now I'm in my form. Now I'm going to delete this and run it. And I'll put in a username and a password and say login. Now you'll see to return this error. It says the connection string property has not been initialized. So for you to initialize that, that's where you have to put in that command. Okay, so this was where we took it out from here. And how do you get here to this place? Now remember, I named this particular file login underscore load. If it's yours might look like this, depending on the name of your form, it might just look like this. So if you come to your login form that you've just created, that's example login, so this is what you've just created. If you double click on it, you'll see example login load. So it's the main thing you're looking for is underscore load. This can always change depending on what you named. It could be form 1, form 2, but I named mine example login. That's why it's this way. So what you're expected to do here is this connection, you're meant to have it here, just underneath this. Remember, do not edit this. Anytime you're following any instruction from another program, please do not edit this to fit what you're seeing there, unless you have renamed all of these things appropriately. Do not just edit this, because sometimes you find that this is given by default by Visual Studio. .NET runs this and gives you the appropriate thing to be there. So just go ahead and put the commands in between the private sub and the end sub. So now we've copied this and we pasted it. Now you will notice these errors, yes, because this is missing. The declarations, everything that was declared here I didn't put it there. So public class login form, this is where you want to paste this information underneath this. So when you copy this 5 lines and you go to where your code is, now public class, underneath whatever you have there, you notice the errors have disappeared, because now these things have been declared. The reason why you saw the errors there is because they were not declared. They were strange to the system. That's why it gave that error. So let's move quickly. The next thing you want to do is you need to know what we've of course initiated this. you need to know where these commands go, so you don't just copy and paste. Before you paste any or type in any code, you should know where you're typing it into, because you can see this module here, it says end. You should know that is your cancel button. When you double click here, it takes you straight to where the command goes. So let's go back to what we created earlier, to the design page. And on the design page, let's double click on cancel. All you need to do for this, just type end. When you type end, that's it. You're done with that button. So you have finished with this button. So when you run it now, okay, I need to close that and change that to my example page. So project, BT access, example login. So when I run it now and I say cancel, it closes. So works fine. So we're done with the cancel button. Now we want to do the login button. For the login button, this is the code you need from here to here, and I'll explain everything. Now you come over to your design. You come to design first, double click on that button and paste. Now let me say something here at this point. Now sometimes you might have forgotten to include a button and you have put in your code already for that button. My advice is, do not duplicate that button for the new one. Just simply create a brand new button so that there is no confusion. What I find is sometimes when you finish configuring a button and you remember, oh, I need an extra button, and you now copy and paste it, it takes some of the properties from the previous button and it can cause confusion. So the best thing to do is to do your buttons at the very beginning. If you've forgotten to do one and you've almost finished your design, just simply go to your toolbox and put in a new button. If a button is malfunctioning, just delete it and redo a new button and follow the instructions for the right settings. Okay, so now we've pasted. I went from the front end, I double clicked on login and I pasted the commands here. Now let me explain what this is. Now I started with a conditional statement. I said if text box 1. What is text box 1? If you come to your design and you click on the first text box, you will notice it has text box 1 here written. So that is the name of this box. That is why I'm making reference to it. And the property of that box is a text. What we're associating with is text property. That's why you have text box 1.text equals to. Now I'm saying here, if this is blank, or text box 2, which is this one, if it's blank, then give me this message. Say, please fill all the information. Fill all the info. Else, this is what it should do. Now, this is the exact same thing here. So I'm just showing you what, because I know this is what yours would look like because you're creating it for the first time. Remember here, your source, make sure the name is correct. Okay, type this exactly as it is. This one you don't need to change anything, just make sure you have this copied exactly. So when you have your text box, I've said here text box 1, if it's empty, if this one is empty, then say this. Else, go over to DS. We declare DS as data set here. Data set should be equals to new data set adapter, which is this. I told you, just a connection to a data source. So we're connecting to the database. We said now select star from, that select everything from table accounts. Now what is this TBL account? Remember, TBL accounts is from our database. So I'll go ahead and open the database and you will see, remember we created TBL accounts. So this was the one I used earlier. So you will see this without all of this. Yours will be empty. So you have, let's go to design view, you have username and password. So when you come to the command, you see select from table account, where is username? username is this and password is this. So where username is equals to this and text box 1. So basically text box 1, whatever is in text box 1 should be username. So text box 1, username, and this is password. So you have this and password from text box 2 and con. That's, remember what we said connection was, this is your connection. That's why you have con there. Then the adapter.fill, that's ds, dataset, and table accounts. So this is what should happen if this is filled in. If this is not filled in, this is the message that should come up. It's a validation uh, uh, strategy we're using here to say make sure you put in the information, the right information there. Same thing goes, that's else, come do this, and end if. So this block here ends here. Then we said if the DS table, that's the table accounts rows, is greater than 0, then message box login successful. So basically if it matches the information on the table, in the table there, because 0 means, of course, anything less than 0 is less than 0. And on your table, what you have from here, any item you have starts from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the user ID. That's for your primary key. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. So if it's greater than 1, then go ahead. So that means it should match it on the table, and this is a confirmation. And when it does that, it should clear the box. It should clear whatever is inside here since it's successful. Just clear it. Then this here says BTEC calculator should show. What is the BTEC calculator? Remember, this is our BTEC calculator. So it should show only when these conditions have been met. And the message, or else it should say incorrect combination of username and password if the username and password are incorrect or are not found in the database. This is what it should return. Okay, hopefully that is clear enough. Remember what I said, this is after it's successful, it clears the boxes because you put in your username and password in there. So the other thing here now, this is another button here. If you go back to the front end, remember we said new. So when you click on new, we expect to see a registration page pop up so that the person, if the person is a new user, you want the person to register. So maybe I should show you how that works first before or let's just do it first because you still see it run anyways. So let's come back here and just say when you've got too many windows open, just brings confusion. Okay, so this is for the registration bit. I'll explain it. Now you go to new, double click on new, that new button, this is the command. Now registration.show, this is my registration table, so I want this to show, right? That's why I put registration.show. If registration is visible, then hide me. Remember, this is the login page. We've told this window, if registration is visible, hide me. So let's go over to, let me run my login form, and I'll show you what that looks like. So when you say new, you can see that this is showing, but the login page is not showing because you've given that command. If this is visible, let that one not be visible. Okay, so that is the reason why you have that command. So you said if registration, because you might have named your form differently, so it could be form 1, form 2, so it's up to whatever it is you named your form as. So if your form is just form 1, form 2, you have form 1. Just make sure you know what form you want to appear. So I'm saying show registration when you click on that button, and when registration is showing, make sure you hide me, that is the login page. So if you've done that, if you understand that, then we're done. That is basically all you need to do for this exercise. So you can watch this video over and over again. And like I said, all of these resources will be made available to you. But I expect you to follow the steps and create your pages. So when you've completed that, you have basically finished your uh, P that's P6 and M4. So that's M4, that's including an advanced feature in database and implement automated function. So at the end, I'll just run it one more time so that you see how it works. Oh, I just remembered that we haven't done the registration page. It's not so different, and I'll show you the registration page. The commands are similar, and I'll just show you that real quickly. So let's go to the registration page. Registration page, for the create bit button, when you double click on it, you will see from here down to here, these are the commands for the registration button, right? This is the registration form I'm talking about now. You can see here under public class, declared the same thing. We put in the same thing on the very top, import system.data.this, and you have these variables declared, the source of the file, your database file, and this is your button, your create button. The cancel button just has a simple command, which is end. Okay, don't bother yourself by any other thing. Remember, for your load, this particular form is called registration underscore load. You have to put in your connection string here. And how you find that registration load is you just come to the front end and double click on the top of your form, and you'll see it'll open. Any of your forms that you just double click here on the top, you will see it will open up the load bit where you can put in your code. So that is for your connection string, and these are the commands we put here. Now for this registration page, remember we have password and password, so you want to be able to validate that everything put here is the same as this before it can advance or make progress. So this is what I said. If text box 1, remember we have 3 text boxes. We have 1, you can see the name here, text box 1, text box 2, text box 3. I did not rename anything else. I did not go and change the name from here. So if you want to change your name, the name of your text box, you can do that, but just remember to include that in your code so that you don't get confused with this code if you're following this example. So whatever you name your text box 1, you have to change it here. So textbox1.text is equals to, that's I said here, if this is this, then this should, or this is equals to this, or this, then message box fill all the information. So if all of this information are empty, if all of these are empty, send this information and say please fill all the information. Of course you can put in anything you want here. You can say fill all the information, you can say nothing, you've not entered any information, you can edit that. Else if, now this is a condition here that will validate if your password and confirm password, if it matches. So I said here, if this is not equal to, this is a sign for not equal to. If text box 2 is not equal to text box 3, then this is the message that you should display. Else, carry on with this is the exact same thing I explained. Your data sets, your adapter to connect to your table, username and password, and here it only just needs to work with text box 1 and 2. You don't need to include text box 3 because text box 3 is only needed in the front end to validate that you have put in the correct, that's the same thing for your password. And when you're done, text box 1, text box 2 clear. Yeah, you can add text box 3 clear because you're going to be adding confirmation there. So you can put text box 3 dot clear. So when it's done, it clears whatever is there. Then it says message, it sends a message box. That's the message box will pop up and say user have registered, that's user registered, and login form should show. So I want my login form to show by the time registration is successful. So it should show this as soon as it is successful. So that is why I have this here, login form.show. Then if login form is visible, then hide me. And of course, I've explained the connection string, and that's basically it for that. So you have two of these windows. So at the end of the day, you're going to have three designs. That you have these two that we've just added. You've already done this, so you're just adding these two with its own separate database. Okay, so let me just test run this for you. So just to validate what we've done. First things first, I want registration page to run, so I'll change that to registration page, and I'll just click on start. So I'll intentionally put in wrong information so that you can see the validation options there. For our message boxes, you can see all the options that we've created. Just give it a few seconds and it's up. Yeah, so I'm just going to put hotel, password, put hotel, then to confirm password I'll put in anything, and if I say create, it says password mismatch. So but if I put in hotel and I create, it says user registered, and it automatically opens the login page. And when I type in hotel, it says login successful, and I say okay, and my calculator runs. Now what happens when I say, now just for you to see what happened here, now look at the database here. Let me refresh it so you can see hotel has been updated. Any database, anything you put in your database and you refresh your database, you'll see the information being stored there. So I'm just going to run this again, and if I don't put any information inside the form, what happens? Because that was how I was able to get those blank registration. So if I say create, it says please fill all the info. If I put only this and I say create, it says please fill all the info. So this condition must be met first, and I say create password mismatch. Remember the conditional statements we placed there. So if you put in any information, let's use admin. Admin has already been created anyways, so I'll just put Rami 123 123, and I say create. It says user registered, okay, and I use the same using credentials, and I say login. Now before I say login, if I want to leave here and just say new, you can see it brings me back here. So to get past here, of course, I need to create something. So I'll just create another. So I created Rami, and now I'm creating cool. I say create user registered. So login. I use Rami 123. Say login successful. So it comes up. So if I put in any information here that is not in the database, it says incorrect combination of username and password. So I'll need to do that. Put in the correct information. I have so many users. Admin, login. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope it was good enough. You can drop a comment just to give some feedback. So have a good day. See you in the next class.